Hello everyone, and now let's see a very interesting chapter, that is returns. And this is, you can say, the most uh, commented upon and the most disgusting chapter of this whole law, that is GST, because this is the most complicated one, and all the practitioners and everyone is very much disgusted with this chapter. I'm using the word disgusting because everyone is very annoyed and complaining about this chapter. So I'll stop using all the bad words and let's come down to details. Returns means the documents that you submit in respect of your output liabilities and your inputs that you have received. So there are two basic first returns, that is the output supply, the inward supplies, and then a final return after matching of the outward and inward with the other parties. So it's a very, I can say, now I'm not getting words for this chapter, so I'll stop using those words. Let's come down to basics. The supplier will first submit the output details, and then the recipients will submit the input details. So the output details of the supplier and the input details of the recipient will be matched on the portal, and if it matches, very good. If it does not match, then the communications will take place and whoever has made the error has to correct it so that it matches. The whole credit flow, ITC, we have seen this in the chapter of ITC, the credit flow, the input tax credit, depends upon the matching of these details. Okay, so the output details submitted by the supplier should match with the input details, the inward details of the recipients. That is in case where the credit is to be taken, that is supplier to supplier. But if it is supplier to consumer, B2C market, then there is no credit. So consumers are not going to file any returns as such. So then the credit is lost. So that becomes a burden upon the consumer, the final consumer. Okay, so let's see. So in all there are basically three returns. First the input, the output, and the final return. And then there is an annual return which is to be submitted at the end of the year. It is covering the entire year. Okay, so let's see now. It's very simple. So first we'll see section 37 read with rule 59, and this is details of outward supplies. Okay, and this whole system is so complicated that the government is thinking of revising it, and soon, maybe in next 3-4 months down the line, by 2019, late 2018 or early 2019, we'll see the complete new structure of returns to make it more simple, to make it more affordable. So our first question is, who is required to furnish returns under this section? So it says the return of outward supplies under this section should be furnished by every registered taxable person. Every registered taxable person has to submit this details of outward supply, except the following persons. The input service distributor, because they don't take credits, a non-resident taxable person, a person paying tax under the provisions of section 10, that is composition levy, then person paying tax under provisions of section 51, that is TDS and TCS. So the person who has to deduct tax and pay to government, or person who has to collect tax and pay to government, or the composition dealer, or the non-resident taxable person, or the input service distributors, these people don't have to submit these details. The reason is simple. Input service distributor doesn't make an outward supply. Does he make an outward supply? No, he only passes on the credit to his units. That's it. So he's not making outward supply. So he is exempted. Non-resident taxable person is exempted. Then person paying tax under composition scheme, because a composition dealer neither takes credit nor passes on any credit. So he is exempted because he doesn't give credit to anyone. And TDS and TCS, because they are on a different footing. They are not like outward tax. It's a different kind of, it is a TDS provision, or the TCS, the collection, the ECOs, electronic commerce operators. So all these are exempted from filing the details of outward supply. Okay. Other than them, all other people like Farooqa classes have to submit. Then what are the details needed to be included in the details of outward supplies? So it says the details of outward supplies of goods and service are both furnished in form GSTR1. The form of submission is GSTR1 shall include the following. Now here the small theory question can come, that what are the details of GSTR1? So you'll write all these. Invoice wise details of all interstate and intrastate supplies made to registered persons, because here the credit will flow, the ITC will flow, because you are making sales to registered persons. So here you have to give invoice wise details, that this is invoice number 214 I have issued to Om Enterprises, invoice number 524 issued to Hari Om Enterprises, invoice number 813 issued to Shiva Enterprises, and so on and so forth. Because they are registered persons, so they will take input tax credit. So I have to give invoice wise details. Secondly, interstate supplies, interstate, second is interstate supplies with invoice value more than 2.5 lakhs of rupees made to unregistered persons. So if you make interstate, interstate from Maharashtra to Andhra, Maharashtra to Karnataka, Maharashtra to Delhi, if I make interstate supplies and if the invoice value exceeds 2.5 lakh rupees, I have to give separate information, means invoice details have to be given. Okay, so 2 points are covered here. Invoice wise details cover 2 points. Number 1, inter or intrastate sales to registered persons. Any supply which is made to a registered person, whether it is below 2.5 lakhs or above 2.5 lakhs, whether it is of only 2,000 rupees or 2 millions, invoice wise detail has to be submitted, because the reason is simple, that other person, the registered person, will like to take the input tax credit. So the invoice has to match, invoice has to match, then only he will get the credit, right? So first point. Number 2, interstate supplies. So now we are talking about supplies to unregistered dealers. Okay, so when you make supply to unregistered dealers, if it is interstate, and the invoice value exceeds 2.5 lakh rupees, then you have to mention it separately. Okay, so now what we are left with after these two? We are left with sale to unregistered persons, supply to unregistered persons in case of interstate, which is below 2.5 lakhs, and in case of intrastate, all. We are left with these. So let's come down to B. What B says now? B says consolidated details of all intrastate supplies made to unregistered persons for each rate of tax. For each rate of tax. So in case of intrastate supplies to unregistered dealers, whatever the value may be, the value may be 10 lakh, value may be 50 lakh, value may be 2 lakhs, or maybe 70,000, whatever the value. If I am, say, selling different goods having different rates, the rates are maybe 5%, 10% and 12%. Suppose I am selling 3 types of goods, different types of goods, but they are categorized, some goods at 5%, some goods at 10% and some goods at 12%. So in this, what I have to do is, I'll have to aggregate their turnovers and mention the 3 categories. Total supplies to unregistered dealers at 5%, this much. Total supplies of all goods at 10% to unregistered dealers, this much. And total supplies at 12%, this much. Okay, so rate wise you have to mention. And second point says state wise, so put it in a bracket or a square, state wise interstate supplies with invoice value up to 2.5 lakh rupees made to unregistered persons for each rate of tax. So in case of interstate supplies, about 2.5 lakh you have to mention it separately, like given here, invoice wise. But if it is less than 2.5 lakhs, suppose I have made 11,000 supplies in this month in interstate to different people, to different states, at different rates, but each one less than 2.5 lakhs. Total 11,000 supplies, less than 2.5 lakhs each, to different states and at different rates. So now what I have to do is, I have to aggregate them first state-wise and within state rate-wise. So all my supplies to Meghalaya will be put separately. So the goods that I have supplied to Meghalaya have been charged at 5% and 10%. There are only two rates now, say for example. Some goods at 5%, some goods at 10%. So I have to mention these two categories. So I'll say Meghalaya 5% this much, 10% this much. Then Andhra Pradesh 5% this much, 10% this much. Then Mizoram 5% this much, 10% this much. So it will be like that. Means state wise, FHC Farooqa classes is in Maharashtra. So whatever supplies I have made to as I said Meghalaya at 5% aggregating this much, at 10% aggregating this much, and similarly to other states. It may be to Delhi 5% this much, 10% this much, and maybe I have supplied another goods at 12%, so that will also be categorized separately this much. Understood? So this is interstate. And for intrastate 2.5 lakh doesn't matter whether it is less than 2.5 lakh, whether it is more than 2.5 lakhs, whatever it may be. You have to just mention them rate wise for intrastate. Okay. And in case of interstate, state wise and within state rate. So got the whole picture of how the return will show the outward supplies. I'll tell you once again. If the sale is to sale means supply is to registered persons, then you have to mention invoice wise details. Okay, because they are going to take ITC. And if this applies to unregistered persons, means they are not going to take ITC. So there is no question of ITC, but we have to still show the details. So how will we show the details? In case of interstate supplies, in case of interstate, there will be two categories: more than 2.5 lakh, less than 2.5 lakhs. More than 2.5 lakhs, invoice wise. Less than 2.5 lakhs or up to 2.5 lakhs, then state wise consolidation, and within state rate wise consolidation. So you can consolidate, instead of showing invoice wise, you can consolidate the invoices within state to state and rate. There will be two divisions, state and rate. And if it is intrastate, then whether it is more than 2.5 lakh or less than 2.5 lakhs, you have to just consolidate them into rate wise consolidation. Got it? So let's make a diagram also if you want. GSTR1. Okay. To registered persons means supply to registered persons invoice wise. To unregistered persons, there will be two categories: interstate and intrastate. So for interstate, again two divisions will take place. Less than or let's take more than first. More than 2.5 lakhs and less than or equal to 2.5 lakhs. So if it is more than 2.5 lakhs, then you have to give invoice wise details. If it is less, then there can be consolidation. Consolidation state wise, and within state rate wise. Okay, and if it is intrastate to unregistered persons, then whether it is less than 2.5 lakhs or more than 2.5 lakhs, you can give consolidated information. So there will be consolidation, and it will be simply rate wise, because it is intrastate, it is within the state. Okay, if somebody wants to take it down, pause the lecture and take down. Then come back. Then C point says debit and credit note details will also have to be given. Debit and credit notes, now all of you know, we have seen the chapter. If any issued during the month for invoices issued previously, if the invoices have been issued in previous months, but you are issuing debit notes or credit notes in this month, then you have to include these debit and credit notes in the return of this month. Okay. Then of course the time limit is given in point number 3. Okay, what is the time and manner of furnishing return under section 37? So time is 10 days from the end of the tax period, and the form number is GSTR1. Everyone knows, and it is e-return. Obviously it has to be filed online within 10 days from the end of the tax period. Now the tax period can be month or quarter, as the case may be. So after the end of the month or after the end of the quarter, you can file it within the next 10 days. Such return shall be for supply of goods or service, or both, obviously, as affected during the tax period, and shall be filed electronically, obviously. And the registered person shall not be allowed to furnish any details of outward supply during the period from 11th day to the 15th day of the month succeeding the tax period. Means the first 10 days are allowed to you to file this GSTR1, that is outward supply, and it will be closed from 11th to 15th. You cannot file it between 11 to 15, because that time is allowed to the recipient to verify and modify, as the case may be. This implies that the filing portal may not be available for the person filing the return of outward supply during the above dates. Then there is a notification number 43 by 2018. A lot of notifications are coming here in the return chapter, because there are continuous changes being brought by the government, and probably by next year we'll see a complete change of the return filing platform. So here it says the central government, on recommendation of the council, hereby notifies the registered persons having aggregate turnover of up to 1.5 crore rupees, means less than or equal to 1.5 crores in the preceding financial year, in the last financial year, or the current financial year, shall follow this special procedure as mentioned below for furnishing the details of outward supply of goods or service, or both. The said persons may furnish GSTR1 till the time as specified below, namely for the quarter. So first point is that they have to file quarterly statements and not monthly. This is for the people whose aggregate turnover in the preceding year was less than or equal to 1.5 crores, or suppose if they are established in the current year itself, then we'll see the turnover of the current year till it reaches 1.5 crores. So they will have to file a quarterly statement, and the first quarter, of course, April to June 18, the due date is specified as 31st October 18. Means even for April to June, even for April to June, the date specified is 31st October 18. Then second quarter for this year, this fiscal 18-19, that is July, August, September, the due date is again 31st October 18, because of these changes, you know. So this is, you can say, extension of time granted. So 31st of October. So for first quarter it is extended time, and here for the July to September it will be 31st October, means you get complete 1 month. And as you know that there was a flood in Kerala and parts of Karnataka and Puducherry. So for those states, that is Kerala, the whole state of Kerala, Kodagu district in Karnataka, not the whole of Karnataka but only one district, Kodagu district in Karnataka, and Mahe in Puducherry. Okay, the date is 15th of November. Instead of 31st October, it was further extended to 15th November. Then for October to December 2018 quarter, they will have to file by 31st January, means complete 1 month they get after the end of the quarter. And for January to March, they will have to file by 30th April 2019. Okay, so this is good for people whose turnover was less than 1.5 crores in the last year, last fiscal, or this fiscal, as the case may be. If they are established in this fiscal, then we will see this fiscal. Then there is another notification, number 44 by 2018. Here it says the Commissioner on the recommendation of the Council extends the time limit for furnishing the details of outward supply in GSTR1 by registered persons aggregating turnover of more than 1.5 crore rupees. So earlier notification was for people less than 1.5 crores. Now this notification is for people whose turnover exceeded 1.5 crores in the preceding financial year or the current financial year. Preceding, if you are existing in the preceding financial year, then we'll see the turnover of the preceding financial year. But if you are not established there, you are established in this year, then we'll see the current year. For the months from July 17 to September 18, so this is history now. July 17, GST started from July 17, but there is a possibility that a lot of people might not have filed their statements, might not have filed their returns, okay, of outward supply, because there was a lot of confusion and there was a lot of tax evasion earlier. So people slowly and steadily registered themselves. Even after registration, nobody was sure what to do, what not to do. So government says, okay, let all the evils die. From July 17 to September 18, you are given time till 31st October 18. Okay, 31st October 18 is the maximum time you get to file your statements. And October 18 to March 19 till the 11th day of the succeeding month. Now, as you can see, normally the time as prescribed by the section originally was 10 days, but they have given 1 day extension again. So they have now said that you can file by 11th day. What happens in 1 day, I don't know, but they have given time till 11th day of the succeeding month. Means October's return will go by 11th of November, and November's 18's return will go by 11th of December, and so on and so forth till March. Okay, so these are the latest notifications which you'll have to remember. And then what are the consequences of late filing? What is the consequences of late filing? You are liable to a late filing fee of 100 rupees for every day of continuing default, subject to a maximum of 5,000 rupees. But there are concessions allowed, so we'll see the concessions later on. So 100 rupees is the statutory penalty that is levied, okay, per day, for every day during which the default continues. So if you are dealing by say 7 days, then you will be liable to pay 100 into 7, okay, but 5,000 is the maximum. However, concessions are given. We'll see a whole list of concessions later on. Then, can the due date for furnishing return be extended? Yes, we just now saw the notifications issued. So it says beyond 10th of the succeeding month. Yes, they can be extended. Then what are the role of a recipient of supply in furnishing returns of supplies by the provider? What is the role of recipient? The recipient's role is to check whether the details submitted by the supplier are correct or not, right? So that is his role. It says the recipient of the supply shall be provided an opportunity to accept, reject, amend or delete. Accept, reject altogether, amend if the amount is not correct or the quantity is not correct, he will amend it, or delete the details. Delete means delete some part of it. In a two-way communication process, the details provided by the supplier shall be auto-populated and available electronically to the recipient for matching purposes in form GSTR 2A. This is all theory right now. Most of it doesn't exist in practical life, but it's fine because you'll have to answer the questions as per theoretical provisions of the law. Then rectification of return is there. In case any error or omission is discovered in the course of matching as specified in the Act and discussed under section 42 and 43. Now we'll study these sections in ITC chapter. Right on there. In input tax credit chapter. Because the whole methodology of input tax credit depends upon matching. So how the invoices are matched, the output invoice, the details uploaded by the supplier and the details accepted by the recipient. So that matching concept we'll study in ITC chapter. So depending upon that matching, whatever differences arise, they have to be rectified then, right? So either the recipient is wrong or the supplier is wrong. So whoever is wrong will rectify his details. So that is given there. Rectifications of the same shall be affected. Tax and interest, if any, as applicable, shall be paid. Means on rectification, if any tax comes or any interest comes, they have to be paid on such corrections by the person responsible for filing the return of outward supplies. Such rectification, however, is not permitted after filing the annual return or the return for the month of September of the following financial year, whichever is earlier. So there is one point that there is a concept of annual return. This also we'll study after few sections. So that annual return, as the name suggests, it is for the whole year, is to be filed by 31st of December of the next year. Okay, that is the due date, you can say. But here it is not concerned about due date. Here it is saying after filing, the actual filing of annual return. So you have to file your annual return next year for this current year, or the return for the month of September, next year's September return, as in when you file the September return. So the date of filing the annual return or the date of filing of September month's return of the next year, whichever is earlier. So whichever is earlier, that will see. And any rectifications that you want to do in the current year's returns, monthly or quarterly returns, you will have to do it before the earlier of these two dates, like it is given in this example. See, for example, let us say the entity has furnished the annual return for the year 1819 on August 15, 2019. The due date was December, but you can file any time. So you filed on August 15th, 2019. Now, I think it is whatever, it is a holiday, 15th August, all of us know, but still online portals are always open, so you can file. An error is discovered in respect of a transaction pertaining to July 18. So in this fiscal of 1819, for the month of July 18, there was some error. The entity has filed the returns for the month of September 19 on October 18, 2019. So October 18, we'll check with August 15, 2019, the date of filing the annual return, and then we'll take whichever is earlier. So August 15 or October 18, which is earlier? August 15. So whatever rectification you want to do for the month of July 18, you have to do it before this 15th of August 2019. So that is given there. In the above case, the rectification of error pertaining to transaction in July 18 cannot be rectified beyond August 15, 2019. Means if you want to rectify, you have to rectify it before 15th August 2019. That's simple. The recipient has to submit the details of inward supplies. Okay. So it is given there. In respect of return of outward supplies filed by the supplier of goods or service under 37, the receiver is required to match his receipts with the details of supplies filed by the supplier. So he has to match. He has to accept, reject, as the case may be. The details of outward supplies as filed by the supplier shall be made available to the recipient in Part A of GSTR 2A. So there is a form GSTR 2A, and that auto population, whatever the suppliers have entered with my GST number, that will be auto populated and shown to me in Part A of GSTR 2A. After the 10th day of the subsequent month, so 10 days were given to him to submit the details, then auto population will be done and shown in my GST portal in Part A of GSTR 2A. The receiver is required to verify, validate, modify, or even delete, if necessary, the details furnished by the suppliers. So then I will do all of these things. I can validate or delete, etc., or modify. Then Part B, C and D of the form GSTR 2A shall contain respectively details of details relating to ISD, input service distributor, and tax deduction at source and tax collection at source. So the input service distributor who has distributed credit to me will file his return. So that will also be auto populated and shown to me in Part B. If somebody has deducted my tax, that will be shown to me in Part C. And if somebody has collected tax from me, it will be shown as Part D. Then Part A shall contain the following details on auto populated basis. Serial number 4. Now you don't have to remember the serial numbers, but you have to remember the content. Inward supplies received from registered taxable persons. So whatever purchases we have made from registered taxable persons, that will be shown to us. Then amendments to details of inward supplies received in earlier tax periods. If somebody has rectified his old return, that will also be shown to me in this month because he has revised in this month. Then details of credit and debit notes and amendments to credit and debit notes issued earlier. So inward supply the actual invoice details or the amendments, credit debit notes or its amendments. The above details will then be validated by the recipient with reference to their records. Now these details are accepted by the recipient, will be filed by them in the form GSTR 2 for inward supplies of the recipient. So once I validate them, I will then file my own return, that is GSTR 2, which is for inward supplies. This detail in GSTR 2 must be filed by the recipients of goods or services within 15 days. Within 15 days from the end of the relevant tax period. So I've got this 5 days to verify, check, do everything and then file my GSTR 2. So GSTR 2 will go by 15th. The commissioner is empowered to notify any extension for any class of taxable persons with reasons to be recorded in writing. So if this is the month, then from the end of the month by 10th of the next month, the GSTR 1 has to be filed by the supplier, and by 15th GSTR 2 will have to be filed by the recipient. So these 5 days are given to the recipient to make changes, deletions, additions, whatever he wants, and then he has to file GSTR 2. Then any modification, deletion or inclusion of inward supplies by the receiver in his inward return, that is GSTR 2, shall be communicated to the outward supplier under GSTR 1A. So now if I have made some modifications, or deletions, that will be shown to the supplier in form GSTR 1A on his dashboard. The GSTR 1A shall contain the following particulars auto drafted from GSTR 2. Taxable outward supplies to a registered person, amendments, debit notes, credit notes, and amendments to debit credit notes. Then in case any error or omission is discovered in the course of matching as specified in the Act and discussed under 42-43 ITC chapter we had discussed, rectifications of the same shall be affected and tax and interest, if any applicable, shall be paid on such corrections by the person responsible for filing the return of inward supplies. So if there is any discrepancy, then you have to correct it, and tax, if payable, has to be paid. Then such rectification, however, is not permitted after filing of annual return or the return for the month of September of the following financial year, to which the details pertain, whichever is earlier. Same thing as GSTR 1. So rectification time is annual return or the return for the month of September, whichever is earlier. Then components of valid GSTR return for inward supplies received by the taxpayer. There is GSTR 2. What are the components of this? So that is also very simple. The information submitted in GSTR 1 by the counterparty supplier of the taxpayer will be auto-populated under GSTR 2A and given to the recipient. The same will be modified or added or deleted by the taxpayer. Taxpayer here means the recipient. After modification in GSTR 2A, the form GSTR 2 shall be prepared. The recipient would be permitted to add invoices not uploaded by the counterparty supplier if he is in possession of invoices and has received the goods or services. So this is according to me. Whatever I have received, I will put it in my GSTR 2 return, whether the supplier has given the details or not. What details? The basic details of the taxpayer, that is name along with GSTI and number, the period to which the return pertains, and the final invoice-wise inward supply information pertaining to tax period for goods and services separately. Then this will be auto-population. Auto-population in this return from GSTR 1 will be done on or after the 11th of the succeeding month in GSTR 2A. Verification, modification, deletion, and so on and so forth can be permitted up to 15th, and then you are permitted to file your GSTR 2 by 15th of the succeeding month. So all this information I'll put it in simple diagram so you can understand. Here is the supplier. Supplier first files GSTR 1 where he gives the invoice wise details. Why invoice wise detail? Because here we are talking about the transaction where you are supplying to a registered person, right? So invoice wise details will be given by him. This will be auto populated and shown to the recipients in GSTR 2A. So in GSTR 2A, your GSTR 2A will be one in which you can see the supply received from different suppliers. Like this is supplier 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4 and then 5. So if you have made 5,000 purchases during this month, in your GSTR 2A you will find details of all 5,000 suppliers giving their details of outward supply to you. So this is auto populated and shown to you. Now what you have to do is accept, modify or reject the information that you receive in 2A. After you have done that, that information will be shown to supplier, and supplier can then rectify his GSTR 1 if need arises. So if there is a discrepancy between the two people, then this information will come back to supplier and he can then rectify his GSTR 1. So this is one thing happens. Then the recipient, on the other hand, after doing this, he will submit GSTR 2, that is for inward supplies, details of inward supplies. So in this he can take all of these all of these which are received by him under 2A. So this he can already include as it is if he has accepted it. So whatever you accept here is included here. Whatever you modify here will be included in your GSTR2 in modified form, and you can add also. Suppose a supplier has not mentioned the details of supply, but you know that you have purchased the goods, so you can add also in your GSTR2 which are not shown by the supplier. So either it can come from here, the accepted ones, the modified ones, plus addition. You can make additions also. And if you have rejected some supply here that I have not purchased these goods, I don't know about them, then it will not come in your GSTR2. Okay. So the accepted ones come here, the modified ones will come here in the modified form, and you can add some new items also which you think you have purchased but the supplier has not mentioned anything in his GSTR1. Then all these details will be given to the suppliers in, again, auto populated and shown to the supplier in GSTR1A. So it will be shown to the supplier in his common portal, in his dashboard. Once he receives that, he can then accept it. Now if this is already shown here and it is accepted by him, and it comes here as accepted and it goes here as accepted, then automatically it's all matched and tallied. So it will be off the record. Off the record means it will be accepted. Or he can modify, like if somebody has added something here and that goes to supplier, supplier comes to know, oh, have I sold these goods to this person? No, I don't know him, I haven't sold anything to him. So then he can, for these additions, he can either accept or he can modify or he can reject. So he can also accept, modify or reject. So if this is addition made and this person has taken the credit also, and this person rejects it, that I haven't supplied these goods to him, this may be a fake invoice, so then this person will have to pay back the amount. That is, the credit that he has taken has to be paid back, has to be deleted, you can say. The credit has to be withdrawn. So it will happen like this. It's a two-way communication process. Understood? So let's move ahead. Then this whole process is also defined in this small diagram. First of all, filing of returns of outward supplies by supplier. This is GSTR 1. Okay. And this GSTR 1 then goes to the other person. The time is 10th of the following month. It will be auto populated in 2A and shown to the recipients. Recipients will have 5 days, 11th to 15th, to modify, etc. And review GSTR 1. Then when this information comes back, he can review and rectify. Then outward supplies match with respective recipients. If no, then he will modify the return and rectify it. If yes, then he will file GSTR 2, which will come here, and the due date is 15th. And if it doesn't match, then it will be modified, and after modification then it will come here in GSTR 2 to the outward supplier, and the outward supplier will then, and this comes in GSTR 1A, the counter information will come here, and he will then accept, reject or modify the same. And then this is to be done by the 17th, so he'll get 2 more days to do that, 16th and 17th, 2 days, and then you will file the revised return, so on and so forth, in GSTR 3. So this is then the final return, GSTR 3, which is to be submitted by 20th day of the succeeding month. This we'll see in section 39. So right now you must be feeling that where did we see this? We'll see this in the next section that we are going to see, section 39. So 37 is for the inward details, 38 is for the outward details, and 39 is the final return. So let's see that now. See section 39. every registered person other than the input service distributor, because they are covered separately, so we'll see separately for them, or a non-resident taxable person, or a person paying tax under section 10 or 5152, that's TDS and TCS. So input service distributor, ISD, non-resident taxable person, composition dealer, 5152. 5 people are excluded here. All others are included. For every calendar month or part thereof. Part thereof is written because if you close down your business on 17th, then you have to submit a return of 17 days. Otherwise month. So month or part thereof. Furnish in such form means GSTR 3, and manner as may be prescribed a return electronically of inward and outward supplies of goods or service or both, input tax credit availed, tax payable, tax paid, and such other particulars as may be prescribed on or before the 20th day of the month succeeding that calendar month or part thereof. Understood? So this is called as the final monthly return. It must go by 20th of the next month. Simple. Then all those 5 people who are excluded in 1 are then covered by special provisions. So let's see one by one. Subsection 2 says that registered taxable person having paying tax under the provisions of section 10 means composition dealer shall for each quarter they have to pay file return on quarterly basis. Composition dealers don't have to file return on monthly basis, they have to file return on quarterly basis. So quarter or part thereof, furnish in such form and such manner as may be prescribed a return electronically of inward supplies and outward supplies, tax payable and tax paid within 18 days after the end of the quarter. Now you have to remember these dates. So first of all, duration is quarter and the due date is 18 days and not 20. So these are the normal taxpayers who pay tax under section 9. They have to file the returns within 20 days from the end of the month. And for composition dealers, they have to file the return by the 18th day from the end of the quarter. Then every registered person required to deduct tax under 51 or collect tax, no, this is only for deduction. Deduct tax under section 51 shall also furnish in such form and manner as may be prescribed the return electronically for the month, underline month, in which such deduction have been made along with payment of tax so deducted within 10 days after the end of such month. So people who are liable to deduct tax under section 51 will have to pay the amount as well as file the return by the 10th from the end of the month. Okay. Then every person registered as an input service distributor, ISD. So subsection 4 is for ISD, subsection 3 is for TDS. Just keep mentioning these points. Write them so that you will remember easily. For every calendar month, now they have to file again for monthly basis, on monthly basis in the prescribed form. That form we'll see in the list given later on. Within 13 days from the end of such month. 13 days. They have time till 13th day from the end of the month. Now why different dates, I don't understand. Most of the people don't understand. The next person is every registered non-resident taxable person, NRTP. They also have to file on monthly basis or part thereof in prescribed form within 20 days from the end of the calendar month or 7 days from the last day of the period of registration, whichever is earlier, because they are given registration for temporary period, non-resident taxable person. So for example, if they were given registration from 7th June to 14th August, if this is their registration period, then how will they file the returns? 7 June to 30th June, there will be one return for the month of June. from 7th to 30th. Then there will be a return for the month of July, and for August 14 days. So there will be 3 returns: June return, July return, and August return. So for the month of August, how will they file? Within 7 days from the last day of the period of registration. So August return will go by, this is 14th August, so their registration expires on 14th of August. So within 7 days from 14th August. 7 days from 14th August. July return will go by 20th August. 20 days from the end of the calendar month. So July return will go by 20th August. June return will go by 20th July. So June return will go by 20th July. July return will go by 20th August. But August return, the 14 days period, and then thereafter their registration is expiring. So these 14 days return will go by 7 days. 7 days from 14th August. Means 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So due date will be 21st August. Okay. Then the commissioner may, for reasons to be recorded in writing by notification, extend the time limit. Extension can be granted, that is always there, for furnishing the returns under this section for such class of registered persons as may be specified therein, provided that any extension of time limit notified by commissioner of state tax or union territory tax shall be deemed to be notified by the commissioner of central tax. This is for the correlation, that if extension is granted by state commissioner, it will be also deemed to have been granted by central commissioner, and vice versa. Then every registered person who is required to furnish a return under 1, 2, 3 or 5 shall pay government the tax due as per such return not later than the last day on which he is required to furnish such return. So this is due date of payment. So due date of payment of tax is equal to the due date of return. So return due date is 20th, or in some case 18th or 13th, or as the case may be. So the due date of payment will also be equivalent to the due date of return. So whatever is the due date of return will also be the due date of payment of tax. Then every registered person who is required to furnish return under 1 or 2 shall furnish a return for every tax period whether or not any supply of goods or service have been made during that tax period. Means suppose you don't do any business in one of the months, still you have to submit your return. So whether you do business or not is not relevant. If you are a registered person, you have to file your returns. Then subject to the provisions of 37 and 38, if any registered person after furnishing a return under 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 discovers any omission or incorrect particulars therein other than as a result of scrutiny, audit, inspection or enforcement activity by the authorities, he shall rectify such omission or incorrect particulars in the return to be furnished for the month or quarter during which such omission or incorrect particulars are noticed, subject to payment of interest under the Act. So this is power to rectify. But power to rectify is there only if you are not caught by the officers. If you are caught by the officers under scrutiny, audit, inspection or enforcement, then you cannot rectify. But if you voluntarily find a mistake, then you can go and rectify. Okay. So rectification will be shown in which month? In the month in which you find the mistake. Like I have done mistake in the month of August and I realize it in the month of October, then I will show it in the month of October. I cannot go back and change my old return. I have to show it in the month of October that this is the mistake that I have made in August. Okay. And provided that no such rectification of any omission or incorrect particulars shall be allowed after the due date of furnishing the return for the month of September. Here it is due date, and not actual date. It is due date for furnishing return for the month of September or the second quarter following the end of the financial year, or the actual date of furnishing the relevant annual return, whichever is earlier. Oh, 3 points have come now. So time for rectification is due date for the month of September. Now this is for the normal people who pay on monthly basis. So they will take due date of September, that is 20th October, and compare it with annual return, whichever is earlier. The quarter which is given here, second quarter following the end of financial year, this is for those people who are paying on quarterly basis. That is the composition dealers basically. So for composition dealers it will be quarter. So 2 quarters, second quarter means first quarter from the end of the year will be April, May, June. Second quarter, July, August, September. So whatever is the due date for that quarter, July, August, September. So they'll take that due date from the end of the second quarter. So for those people who pay on monthly basis, we'll take September, due date for September. Those who are paying on quarterly basis, they'll have to take second quarter and the due date after the end of the second quarter. And then compare it with annual return filing date, whichever is earlier. Okay. Then a registered person shall not be allowed to furnish a return for a tax period if the return for any of the previous tax periods has not been furnished by him. Now this is interesting. There has to be a chain of returns. So suppose this is the financial year and you have submitted returns from April, May, June, July. So for 4 months you submit returns, and then for August, September no returns have been submitted, and now you want to submit it for the month of October. So if you go and submit the return for the month of October, you cannot. First you have to file the returns for these 2 months also, and then only you will be allowed to submit your return for the month of October. So there has to be a continuity of returns. That's a very simple point. And then in the table you can see all the forms. Now if you want to remember the form numbers, you can do so from here, from this table, and the due dates also of payment of tax and filing of returns, and the periodicity, whether it is monthly or quarterly or whatever. So let's see. Regular taxpayers. Regular taxpayers means who pay tax under section 9. GSTR 3 is the form number, and 20th is the due date monthly, and whatever is the due date of filing return itself becomes the due date for payment of tax. So this and this remains same. Then compounding taxable persons, that is section 10, who pay tax as per section 10, composition scheme. GSTR 4 is their form number. Quarterly they have to pay and file returns, and due date is 18th, 18 days from the end of the quarter. Then TDS under section 51, GSTR 7, monthly and 10th of the next month. Then input service distributors, GSTR 6, monthly and 13th of the next month is the due date. And lastly, non-resident taxable persons, NRTP, GSTR 5, and 20 days from the end of the calendar month. This we have seen, you have to compare 20 days from the end of the calendar month, or 7 days from the last day of your expiry of your registration, whichever is earlier. Then extension of time is given again, can be granted. Mandatory to file returns. It is mandatory to file returns, it is not optional. So even if your tax is nil for a particular period, you have to still file your returns. All these points we have already studied. Then payment and interest. All registered persons who are required to file return under 13(1), 2, 3, 4, 5 are allowed to rectify any omission or incorrect statements but this rectification time limit we have to see, and subject to payment. You can rectify subject to payment of tax if applicable, but you cannot rectify if the omission is found as a result of scrutiny, audit, inspection or enforcement activity. And the time limit is given there. Time limit is due date for the month of September of the next year, or the second quarter as the case may be, or the actual date of filing the annual return, whichever is earlier. And lastly, non-submission of previous tax period return. If you don't submit the previous returns, you cannot submit the new return. So there has to be a continuity. First you have to submit the old returns and then only the new return. So all these points we have already seen. And this monthly return will be on the basis of finalization of details of the outward supply and the inward supplies. That also we had discussed. So just a theoretical point is given there. And then there are a lot of rules. So we'll take a break here and we'll continue with the rules in the next lecture.